Imagine being handed the keys to the most respected franchise in basketball, replacing the greatest coach in league history, and being told, by the way, go to the finals. That's the job one man took on this season. He was never an NBA star. Most fans couldn't have picked him out of a lineup 2 years ago. And right now, he's out coaching legends on the biggest stage in the sport. So who is the mastermind behind the Spurs? His name is Mitch Johnson, and his rise is one of the most fascinating stories in the league, because following a legend is the hardest job in sports. Almost everyone who tries it fails, crushed by the comparison. Johnson didn't just survive it, he took a young team to the finals in his first full season as the boss. That doesn't happen by accident. This is Game is Culture. Real quick before we dig in, if you like breakdowns that profile the people behind the wins, instead of just yelling takes at you, go hit subscribe. It's free and it genuinely helps, so click it. First, where he came from. Johnson wasn't a famous player. He played his college ball at Stanford and then carved out a long career grinding in the background of the basketball world, learning the craft the slow way. That matters because it mirrors Greg Popovich himself, who was also never a star. In San Antonio, they don't hire for the name on the back of the jersey, they hire for the basketball mind, and Johnson's mind got noticed. So in 2019, Popovich brought him onto the Spurs staff as an assistant. And that's where the real education started. Johnson spent years sitting next to the greatest coach ever, absorbing the philosophy, the culture, the way San Antonio thinks about the game. He wasn't just an assistant, he was an apprentice to a master, being quietly prepared for something bigger. The moment everything changed. Then came the hardest possible test. During the 2024 and 25 season, Popovich suffered a stroke. Suddenly Johnson was the interim head coach of the Spurs, thrown into the fire with no warning. He steadied a team in an impossible emotional situation and guided them through, and when Pop officially stepped down after 29 seasons, San Antonio didn't look outside. They promoted Mitch Johnson. Think about the pressure of that promotion. You're not just taking a job, you're replacing an icon in the only organization that icon ever coached. With a generational young star, everyone expects you to develop perfectly. One wrong season and the narrative is written for you. The Legends team fell apart the moment he left. Johnson had to make sure that story never got told. And he answered it fast. In his first full season as head coach, Johnson led the Spurs all the way to the NBA Finals. The league noticed too. He was named a head coach for the All-Star game, a nod to the job he was doing with one of the best records in basketball. A first-time head coach replacing a legend in the finals. That's a debut almost no one pulls off. Now here's the obvious objection. Anyone can win with Victor Wembanyama. Hand a coach a generational talent and the finals are easy, right? It's a fair challenge, so let's separate what Johnson inherited from what he actually built and see how much credit the mastermind really deserves. What Johnson actually did. Having a superstar gets you wins. It does not automatically get you to the finals. The league is full of great players whose teams underachieve because nobody put the pieces together. Johnson's job was to take a generational big man, a veteran guard in Fox, and 2 raw rookies, and blend them into a top defense and a real contender. That blending is the coaching. That's the part talent can't do for you. And the proof is on the defensive end. The Spurs built one of the best defenses in the entire playoffs and a top-tier net rating, the second best in the postseason. That doesn't come from one shot blocker alone. It comes from a system, a scheme, and players who buy in. That's culture and structure, the things a head coach is actually responsible for. Quick interruption, because now's the time. If you're enjoying this profile, hit subscribe. I'm not going to beg, but I am going to ask, so hit it and I'll keep going.
And maybe his most underrated skill is the one you can't see. Continuity. Johnson kept the Spurs' famous culture alive through a wrenching transition. The same standards, the same selflessness, the same identity that Popovich built survived the handoff. A lot of would-be successors blow that up by trying to prove they're different. Johnson protected what worked and added his own layer on top. Now the fair counterpoint. Let's be honest about the doubts. Johnson has a tiny track record as a head coach, so it's early. He inherited a generational talent that lifts any resume. And right now, in this series, his team is down 2-0 and getting out-coached in stretches. So the skeptics have real points. This is a promising start, not a finished legacy. But weigh what he's already overcome. He replaced the greatest coach ever in the middle of a health crisis, and instead of the franchise crumbling, it reached the finals. Whatever happens against the Knicks, the floor of his career is already remarkable. Most coaches never sniff this stage. Johnson got there while the basketball world was waiting for him to fail. So when you watch the Spurs bench in this series, don't just see the young coach in the suit. See the apprentice who studied under a legend, got thrown into chaos, and answered with a finals run. Greg Popovich built the house, but right now, Mitch Johnson is the one keeping the lights on in the standard high. That's a mastermind in the making. And appreciate the emotional tightrope he walked. He took over not because he won a job search, but because a beloved mentor got sick. So he had to lead a grieving locker room while proving he belonged all at the same time. That's a leadership test most coaches never face. Johnson didn't just manage the basketball. He held a shaken organization together exactly when it needed it most. His style tells you something too. By all accounts, Johnson is calm, prepared, and collaborative, the kind of coach players actually want to run through a wall for. In a young locker room, that matters enormously. Rookies need a steady voice, not a screamer. He gave a team full of kids the confidence to play free on the biggest stage in the entire sport. And he's shown he'll adapt, not just inherit. He kept what worked from the Popovich era, but he's no carbon copy. He's tailored the system to a roster built around a unique 7-footer and a very young backcourt, which is a different team than Pop's old dynasties ever were. Honoring the past while building something new is a delicate balance. Johnson has handled it gracefully. So whatever the doubters say about his short resume, the trajectory is undeniable. He inherited chaos and produced a finals team. He earned the trust of a generational talent. And he did it all while the basketball world was waiting for the post-Popovich Spurs to collapse. That collapse never came. Instead, a brand new mastermind quietly announced himself to the league. And there's one more thing that should worry the rest of the league. Mitch Johnson is just getting started. This is essentially his rookie season as a full head coach, and he's already in the finals. Coaches, like players, tend to get better with reps. They learn the playoff chess matches, the in-series adjustments, the big game feel. So if this is the first year version, imagine the version with 5 or 10 more years of experience, still paired with a generational center entering his prime. So here's my question for you. Is Mitch Johnson a genuine coaching mastermind or just the lucky guy who inherited a generational talent? Tell me where you land down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe. We're in a race to 1,000 subscribers, so please join the family.